All right, let's get into some Trump news. In what they call Operation Absolute Resolve, Trump captures Maduro. I think this is the first time we're reporting on this, and sets a lethal red line for Iran. That's more of a recent news. Let me bring you up to speed on what they're saying today. They said a midnight raid, a captured president, and a new quote unquote acting president. The world is still reeling from the news that on January 3rd, 2026, U.S. Special Forces successfully infiltrated Caracas and captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro in his fortified palace. Maduro is currently in New York facing federal narco terrorism charges in a move that has stunned international diplomats. President Trump took to Truth Social this weekend to post an image of himself as the, and I quote, acting president of Venezuela. Trump has declared a national emergency to seize control of Venezuela oil revenues held in U.S. account, stating the U.S. will run the country until the transition is safe. Meanwhile, the U.S. Navy has established a total blockade, seizing shadow fleet tankers linked to Russia and Iran. Chief, we're seeing the Monroe Doctrine enforced with literal handcuffs. Is this the liberation of a nation?
Really, is it really replicating Monroe Doctrine?
That's what
Adequately
many
or
people are
properly?
saying. That's what
Yeah.
many people are saying.
Let me tell you
Yeah. But
where we
before you
are.
continue, let me give you the lowdown
All
of
right.
the Iran protest red line, real quick.
All right. Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So they said tensions between Washington and Tehran have reached a breaking point following weeks of massive anti-government protests across all 31 Iranian provinces. President Trump warned on Sunday that the regime has officially crossed red lines, with reports that over 500 protesters have been killed by security forces. Trump has ordered the military to review very strong options, including airstrikes. In a characteristic move, the president has announced he is speaking with Elon Musk about deploying Starlink to restore internet across the Iranian people. Despite the threat, Trump claims the Iranian government has called him to propose a meeting, even as they warn of a preemptive strike against U.S. interest. So, we saw the missiles flying in Nigeria last month, right? So, is Iran on the
Yeah.
next?
Christmas Day gift.
Yeah.
Um,
What's your take on what is Jesus Christ?
oh,
What is going on in the
thank
world?
thank you very much. Well, what is going on in the world is that we may be on the verge of replay of history, um, such that the only difference is that we stand the threat of nations and humanity annihilating itself, not coming. Well, some esoteric spiritual literature have described a kind of apocalypse that would, in which maybe there will be incineration, that is fire destruction for the model, the civilization we have currently. But that remains an issue of conjecture. That remains some personal experiences for certain people who study events relating to that and the fulfillment of prophecies over time. However, what we know is that whether in First World War or Second World War, there were similar situations relating to countries like Germany and some exile power that were known as the Axis in those days, coming together to seize territories until they started running over critical landmass, countries, geographical demarcations or delineations in Europe, until France was overrun, decimated, and then nobody could appease the sitting, the sitting German Chancellor, Adolf Hitler, by the time he started running amok around 1939. And Chamberlain, the sitting British Prime Minister of that age made certain proposals and was offering peace at all costs, and everybody was like, no. So they got a certain Mr. Churchill as the new Prime Minister, and then the tide changed. Remember, if you check the internet, or you are able, because years back as a university student, I got a rare gift from my brother-in-law, whom I always see as a father figure in my life, Mr. Akipelu Fashemore. He gave me collected speeches. At that time, there was nothing called internet. So he gave me collected speeches of Winston Churchill. And I went through the inspirational collections of that anthology. And it really inspired me on how to give responsible public speeches that will rally people to a worthy cause or worthy causes. Now, the moment we live in is suggestive of something similar to that. First, it was the Russian strongman, Vladimir Putin, that overran Ukraine. And in a fashion that is similar to maybe the character of strong people and dictators and fascists all over the world, Donald Trump probably doing what he wants to do, or probably drawing inspiration from Vladimir Putin, has done the same in Venezuela, taking in Maduro. Some people even pronounce him with Yoruba tone, Maduro, whatever tonal inflection could be applied in this situation.
Maduro.
That's right. So Maduro, and so he was captured, and people started asking, what could be going on? They said he's a narco-terrorist, head of state, and what have you. At least the terms of agreement, the armistice that was flown around the world during Second World War was addressing a situation in which people will not gang up to be aggressive. Rather, there will be this deterrent situation in which nations will come together to offer common defense against antagonistic, belligerent, and probably bellicose political leaders. And so what we have today is that such attempt through NATO, through United Nations Security Council, or whatever arrangement you have, is on the retreat because of the go it alone policy initiative of Mr. Donald Trump. And that is not good enough in terms of upholding law and ethics, at least code of conduct and engagement post Second World War. On the contrary, what we find is that Mr. Donald Trump at times saying, oh, no law, no limit could hold him in check other than his morality if he wants to launch after any sovereign, whether in terms of a personality or country. All of that, that is not good. That signposts that the world is in retreat in terms of peace and tranquility and commonality and human solidarity, or solidarity of humanity. So these are things we must consider. And what does this portend? You can wake up tomorrow and find out that aggressive dictators such like Kim Jong-un in North Korea is deciding to invade a country that has not acted in provocation. You can wake up tomorrow and find out that China wants to take over Thailand, and Taipei is capital. And that from the way he's been talking, that is Donald Trump, targeting or saying, oh, he's going to do something about Greenland. Isn't that going to put a spanner or a cog in the wheels of the alliances built and consolidated by way of NATO over the years, because there is this threshold with NATO. An attack on a NATO entity is an attack on all within the NATO framework. So Greenland belongs to Denmark, and somebody decides to be aggressive, wages a war of, wages a war of attrition or, became so territorial. What do you think would happen? These are the issues. Now, to the wave of protests in Tehran, the capital of Iran, or Iran, whichever is the case. In Africa, we pronounce it Iran. In America, because people like running here, it's pronounced Iran. Now, the deal is that it should be curious to you, Ola, that people who try to say, oh, we are setting up a government based on the model of God, the notion of the supremacy of God, holiness, and what have you, theocracy, which is what obtains under the mullahs and clerics led by the Ayatollah in Iran. They are the ones that are doing things that are egregious. People raising their voice. If in the time of the man that inspired the triumvirate of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, Patriarch Abraham, Moses, the lawgiver, if that was the way when Israelites or people of God were murmuring against him, if that was the standard with which he responded, annihilating and throwing stones, rocks, missiles, all kinds, to quash the voices of the people, wouldn't that have put God at abeyance? Even merely raising a voice against the people of God in a fashion that God considered rude. Moses was denied the opportunity of leading the then migrating people of Israel to the so-called promised land. So what is this saying? The religious leaders who call the shots in Iran today, listen and listen very well. They are killing God. They are killing God. You say you are a religious leader, you put your people to the sword, you put them down through all kinds of war weapons. And then you say people would want to follow that kind of God. I think the people who are running the show in Iran need a kind of brain reset. They need a kind of brain reset, and hear me good. Everybody all over the world, whether you call yourself a pastor, you say you are a man or woman of faith, and you do things that are antithetical to true faith, not being able to forgive, not being able to sometimes look at the possibility of using stick and carrot public and evils. Each time people do that, they do nothing other than kill God. And this is not just about the age of enlightenment when people said, oh, Isaac Newton, Immanuel Kant, other philosophers have just put God, I've just succeeded at killing God. What the Ayatollah Khamenei, successor to Khomeini in Iran, is doing, and all those people who have this caricature of leadership they call theocratic leadership all over the world, what they are doing sometimes is to expose their underbelly. They truly do not love God. They truly do not love themselves. And so if President Donald Trump is saying he's going to go there, declare some form of martial intervention and pull them down, it ought to be careful. Because at the end of the day, they always have a way of pinning things on us Americans. And they make it look like, oh, it's because we want to tell it's invested now. Venezuela. Donald Trump does not talk of putting in place democratic structures. All he wants to do is talk about oil, oil, oil. And people are like, no, that shouldn't be the model. When America goes to somewhere, they put something in place. And what is driving this finally on the part of Donald
Let's
Trump?
make sure that's
What?
finally.
Yeah, finally.
Let's get you finally. Yeah, yeah.
What is driving all this out of mainstream agenda? It's not liked by majority of Americans today. His runaway cachet was immigration reform, and the way he's gone about it, Americans are rejecting him, and then stereotyping people. Initially, it was about race. Now it's moved from race. It's gone to, at some point we want to remove violent criminal elements who have been nesting around the United States. Now it's moved from that. Even Americans are targeted. And all these things are going to be on the voting block. There must be one stunt or the other, whether trying to strike down persecutors of Christians in Nigeria, invade Venezuela, take hostage the leader of such a sovereign country like a common felon, something that has not even been done to him, having been found guilty by several judicial bodies in the United States, and so on and so forth. So for me, some of the antics and theatrics of Donald Trump borders on diversion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. So we're gonna see if we have time to come back. I had some questions around that, but we have some other trendy stories around the world. So we're just gonna jump right at it. Do me a favor, ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, share, subscribe, turn up your notifications so you're notified when we go live. We'll be right back.